Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear students, in this session, inshallah, you'll learn what is a confidence interval, how it works in statistics, how you can develop, construct confidence interval based on your data. This is really one of the most important topic in your research analysis, dear students, also in your statistical analysis. So here first, I'm just giving you the concept behind what is confidence interval, how you can compute it in your statistical analysis. So the basic idea behind it's a range of values based on a sample within which we are reasonably sure the true population parameter lies. What does really mean, dear students? Okay, if you have a data sets or if you have the population data, and first you just try to find out what is the central value of your population, and then you are interested to know or develop what is the confidence interval of your data based on the 90% or 95% or 99%. What does it really mean? It's mean you just try to develop and construct the confidence interval around the central value of the population. So the confidence interval student that is just giving you two values. One is the lower limit value, another is the upper limit values. And both of these values they are computed either on the base of 90, 95% or 99%. So if it is computed based on 90%, so we say we are 90% sure and confident that the true population parameter, the central value that is in the range which is developed, that is within the interval which is developed based on 90%. Or we are 95% confident and sure that the true population parameter, the central value is within the range or the interval that is developed by 95%. So, okay, for better comprehension, dear students, I'm just giving you an example here. Look, dear students, if you have a business and the average sale of each month is $50,000, you have a historical data of 100,000, 100 months, right? In the sale of 100 months, right? And then you found out that the average sale is $50,000 and the standard deviation is $2,000. We assume the standard deviation is sample mean, both of these values are given. In this example, before technically I'm doing have to compute the confidence interval, I'm just interpreting the final answer. First, you have the comprehension in the concept of the final answer. Then we are coming back to technically compute how to find out the confidence interval, students. Okay, in this confidence interval, as I've told you, we have two values. One is the lower limit. This is the lower limit. Another is the upper limit. We say that the central value of the population mean, or you can say the central value or the average sale in our example, especially the average sale of this business that lie in this range. We can say this interval is developed based on 95%. So we can say we are 95% sure and confident that the average sale lies in this range, dear student. This is really very much important in statistical analysis. Most of the time, we are interested to know about these two limits, the lower limit and the upper limit. And the way out for that is we have a function for that, dear students. Okay, simply. Okay, for these functions, you need some informations. Okay, you need x bar, which is the average value of the population you have. Okay, and then we need z score. Okay, this is something technical, z score. Okay, and this z-score is computed based on this 95% confidence interval. There is a different z-score for 95% and a different z-score for 90% and there is different z-score for 99%. So in the z table, you should go there and check out in 95%, right? So if it is 95%, while this is interval, in the interval we are just finding out the lower and the upper limit. So we have the 5% alpha, and that is divided by 0.05. Okay, it's mean the 0.05, which is the 5% alpha, that should be divided by 2. Then you can have 0.025. It's mean the critical value, which is z value, you can find it out in the table. Inshallah, I'm practically teaching you how to find out this value. Okay, once you have this value in the standard deviation value, and just take the square root of the sample and plug all these values. Okay, once you have all these values, this area, okay, this area, dear students, in this function we call it marginal error or margin error simply. Okay, when you find out this value, the margin value we have is 392. Once you should edit with edit to $50,000, and once you should subtract it. When you edit, then it is giving you the upper limit, and when you subtract this margin value, that is giving you the lower limit. Okay, dear students, I think the interpretation is clear. You can say we are 95% sure that the average sale of this business lies in this range, dear students. Now, I'm just teaching you how to use Excel, right? How to find out this confidence interval using Excel, dear students. Okay, look here, dear students, the same example we have here in Excel. Sample mean we have is $50,000. This is the average sale, right? Standard deviations, it means the average sale can be by standard can vary by $2,000 and the sample size is $100. Now, how to find out the confidence interval? I have taught you, dear student, I have taught you how to find out confidence interval using this function, okay? In this function, we need X bar and we need the critical value, which is the score, and then S and divided by square root of n. Okay, for this, dear students, if you just try to construct a confidence interval based on 95%, then the z value, this z square, the critical value is already we have is here, okay? And you should find it this, okay, you can use Excel through function, you can find it, and you can take this value from table, okay? So just when you simply plug these values X bar in this is the critical region value, this is this value, we put it here and then multiplied by S standard deviation is already given there, and then this will give you the confidence interval, dear student. But how you can do it in Excel? In Excel we have a straightforward built-in function here, dear students, equal sign, and you should type confidence.norm. Okay, keep in mind we have two functions. One is confidence.t, one is confidence.norm, normal distribution. Why? Because this function is used when finding out the confidence interval based on z-score. And there we have also t-scoring. Shall I explain this? If the population standard deviation is known, right, and the sample size is large and the 30, we are using this function. And you can straight away take this z value from the table or you can compute it through Excel. But if the standard deviation is not known, right, is not known, then you can use the t statistics, right, or the t table. In the t statistic, we are using the t statistic when the center is standard deviation value is not known, and also the sample size is usually less than 30. Then we are using this function. But in our situation, we assume that the sample size is large and the standard deviation is also known. Then we are using this function. So for example, once we are using Excel functions, just take alpha from here. What is alpha? Simply, if you're using the 95% confidence interval, keep in mind the alpha is 1 minus 95%, that is 0.05. This is the alpha. Okay, in this function you do not need the critical region. The critical region is just required if you do it simply or manually. You can do it manually, but Excel does not need this critical region. Excel, it knows automatically compute critical regions inside within this function. So first, what is the alpha? This is the alpha, and then what is standard deviation? Standard deviation, or example, that is 2000, and then what the function is asking, the size, the that is the population size, we have 100 simply, and just press enter. Now this is, dear student, the margin error, as I've already explained. If you remember, I told you this is the margin error. This is the margin error, this one is the margin error, okay? Once you have this margin error, then you can find out the lower limit and upper limit. How to find out? Okay, very much easy. Equal sign, and this is the sample size, sorry, the sample mean, this is sample mean. Once you should add this value, when you add this is giving me the upper limit, but we need a lower limit. You should subtract this. This is the marginal error, okay? This is indeed a marginal error, this is not confidence interval, margin error, okay? You should subtract this value once, and then within the sample mean you should add this value once, okay? Now I'm just adding this value. Okay, now you found out confidence interval. So very much simply, this is lower limit and this is upper limit. What does this really mean? It means you can just type it this way, okay? The confidence interval that equals, in this situation we have two value. One is 49608, this is the lower limit, and 50392, this is the upper limit. Okay, you can say to your student, what is the interpretation of this? You can say we are 95% confident that the true population parameter or the average value, which is the average sale, that is in this range, that lies in this range. Okay, Okay, here you have learned how to find out the lower limit and upper limit using the Excel function. But if you just try to find out using its manually, you find out the confidence interval just by the manual method. This is this method. Very much easy. You can use equal size. We have in this method we have X bar. You should take sample mean. This is X bar, and then plus, and then you should take Z score. This is critical value, and the critical value based on 95%, this is our critical value. Just click on this, and then you should multiply, because in function of the z is multiplied into s over square root of n. So multiply into standard deviation, right? N should be divided by square root, the square root of, take the square root of n is, in our example, that is 100, and just press enter. Look, dear student, the same answer is given, but this is automatically we have used the function. Here we have just simply and manually put and plug all these values in the function. Okay, how to find out the lower limit? Okay, again, once again, just to learn, equal sign, and this is our sample mean. Why? Because here is x bar, you should put sample means, and then minus, because it's lower limit, this is minus, right? The first one is the upper limit, this is lower limit, minus, and then what is the critical region? This is the critical region, and then you should multiply it into standard deviation and divided by square root of sample size. This is sample into, and this is the lower limit, and this one is the upper limit. Okay, dear students, you have learned how to find out the confidence interval. Okay, hopefully this is clear. Keep in mind, this is when you try to find out the confidence interval when you are using the z-score, and the z-score function or formula is used only if you know that the standard deviation is already given. The standard deviation of the population is already given. If the standard deviation of the population is not given, then we are using this function. We are manually first compute the standard deviation, and then we are using the t-statistic functions. We find out the critical region using the t-table. Also, you can use Excel directly. Okay, dear student, hopefully this one is clear. Now we are just coming to the next part. Now